In a month of insane game releases, we just had another shadow drop on the Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. As of just the other day, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition has come to both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, and personally, I could not be more excited. I played this game way back in the day in 2013 on my PlayStation 3, and I absolutely loved it. So when this shadow drop came out, I knew I would be replaying this game on the Switch 2 and sharing my thoughts with you all. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this game, this is the first Tomb Raider game in the reboot trilogy and tells an origin story of sorts for Lara Croft and how she becomes the Tomb Raider. It follows her on an archaeological expedition looking for a lost kingdom when her ship crashes on an island and she must use her skills to survive in this land where she learns she is not alone. And if I had to compare this game to another one, it reminds me a lot of the Uncharted series, with a lot of parkouring, taking on enemies with a variety of different weapons, and intense action and climbing sequences during your exploration. This game seamlessly incorporates QuickTime events into both gameplay as well as cutscenes, making you feel like you're always a part of the action and always making the transitions from cutscenes to gameplay feel more natural than you get in a lot of other games. But let's talk about why people probably clicked on this video. Let's talk about how this game actually performs on the Nintendo Switch 2. Well, I have to say, personally, I think this game looks pretty good. Now, keep in mind that this is a PlayStation 3 game, and this is definitely noticeable in some of the textures that you see throughout the game. It looks like less was done to the Switch 2 version of this game graphically compared to that which I've seen from the PlayStation 5 version, but that doesn't mean the game looks bad on the Switch 2. Likely what I think happened is that they made this game for the Nintendo Switch and then enhanced that version for the Nintendo Switch 2 rather than making a build that was similar to that of the PlayStation 5 version and then bringing that over to the Switch 2. Regardless of this, the environments are detailed, the character models look good, and the animations are incredibly smooth. It just has a tendency to show its age from time to time with certain textures. But as far as the frame rate goes in this version of the game, it is absolutely perfect. This game is running at 60 frames per second on the Switch 2, which is just absolutely amazing. Every movement feels smooth and fluid, and I personally didn't notice any frame dips during my time playing the game, even when big explosions and things of that nature were happening on screen. The game just runs incredibly well, and the load times are also quite snappy. I let a wolf kill me pretty early on in the game just because I wanted to test the respawn timer, and I was pleasantly surprised that it took like little to no time to get spawned right back into the last checkpoint. And the same could be said for fast traveling. After I got far enough to unlock it, I tested fast traveling back to one of my old campsites just to see how this would run, and just like respawning after death, the fast traveling was also quick and snappy, which is great. So all in all, despite some older looking textures here and there, this game looks and plays beautifully on the Switch 2. But you want to know something else that looks good? That subscribe button. You should really poke that subscribe button because I constantly post new Nintendo Switch content all the time, whether it be game reviews, talking about Nintendo news, and all of those sorts of things. So if you're a Nintendo fan and you're into that kind of stuff, make sure you stick around for more content from me in the future. Now, I also tested this game out handheld because I wanted to see how it would look for people that are trying to play this game on the go. And honestly, I was super impressed by this. I felt the game actually looked way better on the smaller screen than it did when I had the system docked. The textures appeared better, and I noticed a lot less of that PS3 style graphical fidelity while playing the game this way. All around, I'd say that handheld play has a leg up visually over the dock play by far. Now we need to talk about the actual control schemes that you can use in this particular game. I played this game primarily with my Pro controller, and all the button inputs and everything felt responsive and snappy, and the control scheme made sense, and the game felt just good to play all around. But now we got to get into some bad stuff. So gyro controls are here, but they're implemented in quite possibly the dumbest way possible. Rather than being able to control Lara's aim when using her bow and other ranged weapons similarly to how you can in games like Star Wars Outlaws or the recently released Hitman Absolution Switch port, you can only use gyro controls to move artifacts around while inspecting them or to like move the home screen around. And honestly, this just feels like such a strange and odd omission in something that should be there but just isn't. Like, we know gyro exists in this game due to the way the artifacts in the menu work, so why can't we use it to aim with our Pro controller or our Joy-Cons? Like I said, it's here, but it's just implemented in such a dumb way. Now, mouse controls also exist in this game, and this was something I was actually really excited to test out until I actually started using it. Immediately, I was overwhelmed by the mouse controls. The sensitivity is just through the roof. Like, it's crazy touchy. And I even turned the sensitivity down to the lowest setting, and I still could hardly place my cursor over a crow to shoot it. And this just sucks because As a whole, I thought the controls felt very good to use in mouse mode. Sometimes playing mouse mode on the Switch can be a bit uncomfortable, but I didn't find that to be the case with Tomb Raider specifically, but the sensitivity made it just unbearable, and I really cannot recommend that anyone play the game this way until it's updated so that it actually works at a lower sensitivity. Now, another weird thing that I noticed is that to activate mouse mode, you actually have to go into the settings and then turn it on. So when I turned it off to go back to my controller, my right stick just wouldn't work, and even after returning to the main menu and rebooting my save, it still was not functioning properly. I had to actually hard reset the entire game to actually get my controller to work again properly, so there's just no seamless back and forth between the two control schemes if you wanted to play the game that way. Overall, the gyro and the mouse controls are huge misses in this port to the Switch 2, which is incredibly disappointing, and I'm hopeful will be fixed in a patch pretty soon. Now, going back to handheld play, the game feels good to play handheld. The control scheme fits very nicely. It doesn't feel uncomfortable to have to hit any of the buttons, which can be the case for some games when they're played handheld, but like I said, with Tomb Raider specifically, this feels really good and a very solid way to play this game all around, graphically as well as control scheme wise. Now, like I said at the top of the video, I love the story mode in this game, and on top of the amazing story mode that we have in this game, the devs also decided to include the multiplayer mode, which was a pleasant surprise. This multiplayer mode puts you in a handful of different game modes, sometimes having objectives like collecting medicine to retrieve back to your base while you battle against other opponents, or simple things like team deathmatch or free-for-all, and honestly, this mode is a good bit of fun. I remembered enjoying this multiplayer in the past, but I really found myself having fun when I hopped back into it on the Switch 2. And honestly, this ran great as well. There were no latency issues, and the combat was fun and engaging. The biggest thing about the multiplayer, though, is the difficulty of finding matches. It took me about 7 minutes to get into a match, so this can become quite tiring if you are just constantly searching for a match, but never actually getting to play this game mode. Hopefully, as more people get this game, more people try the online mode, because as I said, it's a good bit of fun. Plus, the Switch doesn't really have a ton of games like this, so it's a fairly unique experience to the console, and if more people start to hop in, those load times and time searching for matches will go down a bit. So like I mentioned earlier, this is the definitive edition of Tomb Raider, which means it comes with some DLC packed in. This game is going to include some bonus outfits for Lara that you can equip while you're playing through the story mode. There's 8 additional multiplayer maps at our disposal and 4 additional multiplayer characters as well. And all of this is coming in at $20 on the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2 eShop, which is a great price, especially considering that this game is on sale until November 24th for 10% off, bringing the price down to $18. But on top of this, there's an additional deal. If you already own Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered on Switch, you'll get an additional 10% off, and if you own Tomb Raider 4 through 6 remastered on Switch, you get another 10% off, bringing the total to 30% off if you own all of these titles, which is a crazy deal. Now, the biggest thing that I will say about this game coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 is that it just excites me. One reason it excites me is because, like I said earlier, this is the first game in a trilogy of Tomb Raider games, which means hopefully we'll see the other 2 entries make their way over to the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. I never played the other 2 games personally, and it would be great to see them added to the Switch 2 library so I can experience them for the first time. The second reason this excites me is because it kind of proves a theory that I had about the Nintendo Switch 2. And that theory is that the floodgates are open for older games being ported to the Nintendo Switch 2. We've already seen insane support from third parties with older titles getting ported to the Switch 2, like Star Wars Outlaws, Cyberpunk 2077, Assassin's Creed Shadows that's dropping the same day as Red Dead Redemption Switch 2 upgrade, and Final Fantasy VII Remake coming next year. And then this game seemingly coming out of nowhere to the system, it just feels like third-party developers are clamoring to get their games on the Nintendo hardware, which just has me excited to see what other games will be coming to the system in a similar fashion. So after spending some time with Tomb Raider on the Nintendo Switch 2, I think I can safely say that this game is a no-brainer pickup. I loved this game back in 2013 on my PlayStation 3, and I love that I can revisit it now on my Switch 2. While occasionally it shows its age, the game still looks and feels great to play, sending you on action-packed adventure at flawless 60 frames per second, whether you're playing handheld or docked. The lack of gyro controls to aim with and an oversensitive mouse mode are a bit of a bummer, but an easily patchable one, so fingers crossed that those issues get resolved sooner than later. The multiplayer being included is just a really unexpected and nice little bonus to an already awesome package, especially with how much fun you can have playing it. And the price coming in as cheap as it is, especially if you own the other Tomb Raider games. Netting you an even better discount makes this game a steal of a deal. If you have never played this particular Tomb Raider game, I really cannot recommend it enough as someone who has already played through it in the past and beaten it, and am really looking forward to finishing my Switch 2 playthrough and refamiliarizing myself with this story in hopes that the other two games in the trilogy make their way to the Switch 2 as well. So all in all, I love this Switch 2 port. Yes, it could be improved in some ways as we talked about throughout this video, but man, it just is so good to have a reason to come back and play this game again and play it on the go with the Switch 2, especially with how good handheld looks. It's just a really fantastic deal, especially looking at that price point. It is a steal, an absolute steal. So I do highly recommend you guys pick this game up. But that is going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Let me know, are you going to pick this game up? Is this something that interests you? Are you hoping that we get the other two games brought over to the Switch 2? Let me know that. I'm really hoping that those games come over as well. But like I said, that's it. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out, helps the video out, helps the channel out immensely. But until next time, peace.